Hey all, Scott here from Art of the Genre, and today I'm going to take another look at Zebulon's Guide to Frontier Space, including a couple things that I think are very important to that system, dealing with specifically with the action resolution system. I know I've had some questions on Facebook concerning this and exactly how it worked. One of the questions was, if I have a character, I hand him a laser pistol, he's 15 meters from a barn, the broad side of a barn, and then he's got two in pistols. He gets there are two column shifts in pistols because of his skill level. He gets two for it being a large structure, so forth and so on. You know, he gets a certain percentage or a certain number of column shifts on that action resolution table, which means at the end of the day, he shifts to 63% to hit. Is that saying that a character can't hit the broadside of a barn at 15 meters with a laser pistol? He's only got a 63% chance to hit it. Okay, so that was an interesting question and one that was proposed to me. So to try to answer that and just answer some questions on the action resolution system and how I deal with it and how Zebulon's deals with it, I'm going to go through a couple things today. The first thing I want to show you again is a close-up of the action resolution table. Take a look. Okay, so that's the action resolution table. I'm going to have my copy in my hand. What I do with this, you can pull this out of the book. You can just do a photocopy of it, and then I got these laminated. And I made 5 or 6 of them. So if I'm at a table gaming, I can just hand these out to people. It's basically like you having a DM screen in AD&D where you have to look up, what a fighter needs to hit AC4, that kind of stuff. And that can get tedious in AD&D to do that as the DM all the time. So one thing I found is you don't need to do that with this action resolution table. This is just a basic series of successes that anybody can get. And if you put it on the table, you put, let's say, 1 per every 2 players, they have the ability to take a look at this and they can, tell you what they got. And one person might say, well, if they know what they need to get, won't they cheat? Well, it's at a table, hopefully, with a bunch of people. And if you have people on the chart next to you, they're going to know that your 53 did or did not hit because they're going to have access to the table too. So that should stop anyone doing anything like that if you worry about your players saying, oh, I just got that 41, exactly what I needed. Hopefully the other players at the table will not allow that to happen if you're not really paying much attention to it. But it speeds up the process of the game. It allows people to know what they need in the action resolution system. And you saw, again, I'm going to show you this again. So you see at the top of that, there are column shifts, and those go from column shift neg X all the way to positive X, but it's really a shift of about 15 places, neg 5 to 10. And that's where the characters are going to fall in those column shifts. So one thing you have to know when you're running these systems very, 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 very quickly, make sure you instill it with your players. They need to understand what their column shift is for basic things like combat. If I'm using a weapon, a laser pistol, my combat shift is always going to be at end result 7 before the DM gives you modifiers. In this system, all bonuses are taken in first to take you to your max. So you could go to plus 13 and actually, yeah, you can go to plus 10. You can never go to plus X. So you stop at 10 and then you get anything taken back from that away from you. That would be movement, enemy having cover, using stuff that, extended clips, or having power backpacks which have cabling, wearing heavy armor. Any of those things that could negatively take you negatively down will always take you from 10 if that's your max, or whatever your skill is. So you can never kind of go above 10. So somebody that just keeps throwing all those points in knows that I can wear heavy armor and have all these negatives, but it'll still always take me to 10. You can't do that. Your 10 is your high point, and you're always going to go down from there after the DM gives you your hits. So they need to know what it is. Let's say it's 7, and then as a DM, I could say you're on the move. Both people are on the move. You got -2 to your column shift. So therefore, your actual column shift would be 5. Roll your dice to hit. On a column shift 5, they would have a 58% chance to get either in the yellow, to get a yellow result, 41% chance to get a green, 27 to a blue, and finally your 14 would be your cobalt. And that would, all those charts give you a 25, the yellow would be 25% of your max damage, green would be 50% of your max damage, blue, 75% of your max damage, and the cobalt, your max damage for that weapon. So you're never gonna roll a damage result. It's all determined on the table. So what I do before I play anything, I've just gone through and taken every weapon in the game, and then I do what its base damages are, or its max damages are, and then put that down in a chart, a little kind of chart, and I'll show you one of those here. So you can see what the weapon is, and that's going to go, it's going to give you all your results. So if every character has that on their character sheet, they're going to know what their weapon does on that result. So that quickens things up too. They have a 5, they roll it, they get, a 41, so they know green, therefore their result is X, whatever that is, 25 points, 30 points, whatever it is. And they're going to know exactly how much damage that is. It does take a bit to understand, and you're going to have to know what those weapons do, or otherwise, as the DM, you're going to keep referring back to what did that weapon do max, and then the character tells you what the max is, and then you're flipping to the back of the book or using a calculator to check what the damage is percentile wise. Yes, absolutely agree with people that would say that is really annoying. So have it done beforehand. Have the characters know what these weapons do. One of the things that I do, because SEU, or the energy you can put into an energy weapon, can sometimes be varied, especially on lasers. I do what you're typically going to do. 1 SEU if you're just trying to do a little tiny shot for something, then a 5 SEU burst, which is like a standard amount of SEU, and then the max, which is 10 SEU for most weapons. So you can see I give a range in there, so you don't have to list 1 SEU, 2 SEU, 3 SEU. If for some reason you really had to use some bizarre SEUs like that, then you'd have to look it up. But otherwise, you're going to know what those are going to do. And once you play long enough, the characters will very quickly start to understand that 10 SEU in a laser rifle, a standard laser rifle, is going to do, on a cobalt result, will do 160 points of damage. You just start to get those things in, or the max for an auto rifle doing a burst is going to be 44 points of damage. So people start to know that, your characters will know that, you'll start to know that, and you'll get used to this system, and then it'll start to pick up very, very quickly, because all they're really rolling is one thing. You establish what your column shift is, they roll, and then depending on what their color result is, they're going to get a damage or they're going to miss. Very simple, very quick, and the combat will roll through according to that. The only really bad part about that is, in Star Frontiers, you have defensive suits and stuff like that, which will take off certain percentages of damage or stuff like that. So that'll take a little bit on the back end, but just rolling to hit and stuff like that should take combat very quickly. The other thing you've got to understand about this system, they have something called a result shift, an RS. The result shift in this, it can either be positive or negative, and that's really resulting in the shift of a color. So a result shift of +1 would take a yellow result, which is 25% of your damage, to a green result, which would be 50% of your damage, because it result shifts it up once. If it's a result shift down from a yellow, guess what? Ping comes off, and it doesn't do any damage, because it result shifts that 25% to 0. And that's what I've done in this system, and I'll get into it in another one of these where I talk about heavy armor and stuff like that. I built those specifically designed into the result shift columns, so they make it a little bit easier to deal with, although frustrating for players if they're dealing with stuff that has armor. So that is something that you have to take into effect here when you're dealing with the action results. The action result table. Otherwise, to answer the question that was originally proposed about hitting the broadside of a barn, do we only have a 63% chance? No. In the system, it is written in that they have something called automatic successes, where an automatic success, you don't have to roll for that. or if you're doing something that you want to have an automatic success, you could just shift exit if you wanted to and say, well, only to hit that broadside of the barn, you need to shift X, which is a 97% or less chance to hit that. Otherwise, you shoot yourself in the foot or just shoot high. I mean, it would be very, very hard to do, but I suppose it is possible. So in those automatic successes, those are taken into effect. And also an automatic success would be hitting a target that is prone or down or cannot defend itself. That's kind of a coup de grace. And not only is that a +3 column shift to the attack if they're down, but it gives you a +3 result shift. So if you hit, you're going to Cobalt. You're going to do max damage. So that's the way that that's taken into effect. So the broadside of a barn thing is, no, you're not going to have a 63% chance to hit the broadside of a barn. You're going to hit it. Okay, that's somebody really trying to find a way to attack the system, I guess. But they've taken care of that. Now, my counter to that is, let's say if it was a creature like, let's say in Star Wars, a Rancor or something like that that's huge, that is coming at you, you would have the bonuses to hit that, just like you would the barn, but then you would have a 63% chance because it is moving, it's coming at you, you might be panicked, you're firing up, it's not just the broadside of a barn. So then that's where you get your 63% for that the person was talking about in the question. The only other thing on the action resolution table that I'll go over with you are skills. And the skill systems have very different things. Most of them are, if you have skill points in it, you get the column shift equal to the points plus any modifiers that you could have for the attribute that connects to it. In Zebulon's 2, I connect all attributes to skills. In the original Zebulons, they only did that with Dex, and I didn't think that was fair. So I put in a system where now all the skills are attached to an attribute, so you can get attribute bonuses for intelligence, let's say, on computers, access, and operate, which you don't really need to, because computer access and operate is something else on this table where you can say, oh, you're telling me I can't turn on a computer. No, you can. It's called skill plus X, which means you're always on the shift X table, 97% chance to do whatever you're doing if you really needed to make that roll. And you never have to put another point in that because it's skill plus X. So 1 point in it will take you to shift X. So you never have to go take that skill up to the max skill levels in Zebulon's, which are 8 on those shifts. So in that standpoint, you can do that. The only thing that you're going to have trouble with as a DM that I see is trying to moderate skill successes within the game on what a yellow success means versus a cobalt success on a skill that's not a weapon or an attack. Then you've kind of got to know, as the game master, what those mean. If they mean anything, you could say a success is a success. If you get a yellow or better, you got it. Done. But if you wanted to make something more difficult, you could say, I need a mechanical repair roll, but it's pretty jacked up. I'm going to need a blue or cobalt result on that. If I don't get those, I'll give you a retry in another hour. If you fail completely, you mess it up. So if you get a yellow or a green, you get a retry, but otherwise you're just jinking around with it for a while. So if you're designing an adventure, you need to know what those successes are going to be if you're going to require them. So that is the action resolution system on this table as well that is in the book. They have weapon ranges below, which are all your modifiers to your column shifts up above, and then also your basic condition modifiers. The only thing they don't have in here is cover, which I don't know why, so I put that in Zebulon's 2, volume 2, so a cover would be added to this. But otherwise, there you have it. And hopefully you've learned something today about the Zebulon's action resolution table. If you have any other questions, put them below. I'll answer them specifically to your needs. But again, love the system. And if you can get that pre-planning done, you should be golden on it. So that's it. That's my first piece of Zebulon's guide here, specifically talking about the mechanic. Hope you enjoyed it. And otherwise, great gaming.